Based on your experience, Kory, working at fast-growing companies, is there a particular set of metrics that companies tend to be the weakest in? So thinking about the outside world's view, as we've discussed, is there a particular area that you see as the areas that's hardest to achieve for certain companies, or that they tend to not be prepared to answer to
Yeah,
answer to?
yeah, yeah. That's a good question. I'm trying to think about trends. It feels like it depends on the company, depending on how they're structured. I mean, if you think about, um, the types of things that the outside world looks at depends on the maturity of the company. So in the early days, it's often all about like top line growth, right? And the efficiency piece comes later in terms of your profit and stuff like that. But in those early days, it's like, how fast are you growing? What's the size of your market? What's your pipeline? What's your close rate? All those like, growth metrics in the early days for a younger, less mature company. As you get farther into, the life cycle of a company, then they start looking at, things like profitability and the operations and the EBITDA of a business. And so understanding, kind of which levers are more important and determine, depending on the life cycle of the company are, a key part of it. And, pipeline, is an area, because it's tied to that growth piece that just gets scrutinized really heavily. And a lot of companies, if they don't have good processes in place to, um, kind of build the tracks and the rails for the sales department to update and maintain their pipeline data, that can come back to bite you. I've been in those situations. It can be really painful. What did we start the quarter at in terms of pipeline? What actually closed? What pushed? What came in, was pulled in from future quarters, and to be able to look at those trends over time, so that you can give some sense of predictability and consistency when we go into a new quarter. How much of this pipeline is going to close? They're going to want to see the historical trends of that, so that they can get comfortable in building a model out to the future that, here's the road, here's our confidence level that we can execute against that, and here's the data and actuals to support that model.